Coming up on Tech News Today, is Hulu's Jason Kilar trying to get fired? We're going to try to figure that out. Also, the bandwidth caps get a reprieve in Canada. But according to the CRTC, they may not be gone all the way. And that Windows Phone 7 bug that belongs to Yahoo only affects the iPhone too. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, February 3rd, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Dr. Kiki.
And that would be me, Jason Howell.
This is the show where we take all of the tech news that's been happening in the day, keep you up to date so that you don't have to. We save you time. It's a time saver.
It is.
So that you don't have to go out there and read every single damn blog. That's what we do.
I know. You mentioned that someone recently said, we are just talking about stuff that other people have already reported on. Well, that's true, but we're doing it so you don't have to read all of those.
You're just talking about things that have already happened.
You're talking about the news.
Why aren't you talking about things that haven't happened
You
yet?
don't have your own reporters out in the field reporting back to you their news. Everything that happens around the world.
It's a unique take on all of the stories of the day.
This is your summary of the important stuff of the day.
And the reason that you listen to this over another program is because you like everyone here who talks about it and the things that everyone brings to the table.
Actually, I don't even think you have to like us.
Oh, no, you can disagree completely.
I think that's an added bonus if you do.
Yeah. We don't assume that you do.
Yeah.
You may not.
Some Apple shareholders are turning up the heat on the company to provide a succession plan now that Steve Jobs is out on medical leave. The Laborers International Union of North America had previously pushed for this, and now the Institutional Shareholders Services has given its support as well, both recommending the shareholders vote for a published succession plan at the upcoming shareholder meeting. Apple is reluctant to do this, partly because, well, they're Apple. They just don't ever want to make anything public that they don't have to, but also because they fear, they say, that it would make it harder to retain people if you knew, hey, I'm not in line.
Right.
And it would give their competitors an advantage to know who is apt to take over and who isn't.
It's kind of interesting that within Apple, the succession plan isn't one of these unspoken, everyone kind of knows the next 5 people. You know, no one really, is it going to be Ive?
I think the possibilities are fairly narrow, right?
Right. So why not just do it? Well, it's because it's Apple, and they're secretive about their plans.
I guess you can make that argument both ways, which is, well, if it's so obvious, why do we need to even publish it?
Well, I don't know if that argument really stands. Just publish it and keep everybody happy so they're not on your back. I think also...
I was just going to say, I think that there's the argument that they're making as well, that as soon as they publish it, then if your name is not on the list for succession, you might become disgruntled and then a little bit unhappy and maybe leave the job when they really want to keep you, but they don't necessarily want to put you forward, you know, in the succession towards the C-level positions. So, you know, being forced to publish, you know, it kind of takes the privacy of their plans away. And, you know, Apple's never been too transparent.
Other companies do publish succession plans in these situations, not non-tech companies for the most part, but I've had a few people tell me about instances where CEOs become sick and they're very public about what's wrong with them, what their treatments are because of the investors, and they do publish succession plans. So it's not unheard of to ask for this, but Apple is still asking its shareholders to vote against the proposal. Their annual meeting occurs on February 23rd.
And, you know, not to be, take too much of a morbid approach, but I think that in the cases that you described, a lot of times when you're very open about this is what's wrong, here's the treatment, it's because there's a very optimistic outlook. And by not being public about what's actually going on behind the scenes, people assume the worst.
Yeah.
And if no one really knows what's going on with Steve Jobs, and then there's a succession plan, even if the outlook is good, if no one's saying so, then people, all right, we all know what's coming, and
people will
people get
interpret it
scared.
negatively. Absolutely. Hulu.
But if you're if you're a shareholder, you get to have a say in it, one way or the other. You can vote for or against. I love that.
Hulu is adding The Daily Show and The Colbert Report back. They struck a deal with Viacom that is supposedly worth quite a lot of money, $40 million actually, at least. Hulu's Jason Kilar pushing for contracts that are based on how many users per month actually watch the content, and the price goes up. So they'll pay at the very least $40 million to Viacom. Jason Kilar also apparently has a death wish regarding his job. In announcing that this is happening, first of all, the details: Daily Show, Colbert Report coming the day after they air. Other Viacom shows like Jersey Shore and Tosh.0 are coming 21 days after they air.
I have to wait 21 days for a new episode of Jersey Shore. What will I do?
Not if you watch it live.
Oh, right.
Only if you want to watch it. Only if you want to catch up.
Hey, I admit, I watch Jersey Shore now and again. I don't know when it's on live, though, or when it's on,
well, now you'll be able to
regularly
watch
on
it
MTV.
on Hulu. And you know what? You won't even know that it's 21 days delayed if you don't care.
It's all the same show. It's the same episode over and over. They drink and they go to jail.
But back to Jason Kilar's death wish. He wrote a very long, a very interesting and informative blog post about the state of television, essentially slamming the TV industry for not getting it. And putting their stuff online, saying that the valuable viewers are moving to the web. Nobody wants to watch broadcast TV. Cable bundles are dead.
He says traditional TV has too many ads. Consumers are increasingly moving to on-demand viewing, in part because of the lighter ad load. It's funny, there is quite an uproar, like, what is Kilar doing? He doesn't even, his job is threatened by statements like this. He's being honest. He's saying what we're all thinking.
Yeah, and I don't know that his job is necessarily threatened. It goes against, I guess, what the content distributors want to hear. But at the same time, maybe it's a bit of honesty that they need to hear, that they've forgotten. One of the things he says in his blog post is, hey, you people who are creating the content or who want the advertising dollars, you've forgotten about the consumer in this whole equation. You have to go back, and who's the most important part of this equation? The consumer. And so the blog post I thought was really interesting. He brought up the fact that there was he brought up the idea that television online might end up kind of like a movie model, where there's a release date, and then after that release date is when you really get the bulk of the views.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right in the truth of what he wrote. But at the same time, his bosses are Disney and NBC Universal and Fox.
Right.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of people out there off the record
hey,
saying,
bosses, you're doing it wrong.
I can't believe he did this. Walt Disney has actually distanced themselves in a statement, unattributed as far as I know, that said, look, we don't think anyone in Disney agrees with him. He's, welcome to his opinion, but and then there's some other people off the record who are saying, 80% of the people in all these industries agree with him, but no one would say it in public. It's just career suicide right now, which is a statement on what it's like to be in the corporate world. But is this Jason Kilar's Jerry Maguire moment? Is he shooting himself in the foot, or does he know they need him and he can get away with this?
I think maybe he is gambling that he can get kind of this rally cry from the public saying, yes, finally, someone who's trying to give us what we want, to deliver a better experience. We've all seen that when you get enough people together who speak loudly, change can happen. Maybe he's doesn't have the support of his bosses, but if he can get the support of the people who will be paying money, then they'll be forced to rethink their advertising models.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good opinion there. I think that if he can get support, last week when people were talking about Hulu becoming something of a cable network, all I heard was negative and all over the internet. People, that's great, not really what I want, just another cable network. That's something that I'll go elsewhere for my media. And him coming out now a week later with this pretty much exact polar opposite opinion and a bunch of statements that I think maybe he can get a lot of support, and it might do him some good.
An industry executive told Peter Kafka at All Things D, Jason is probably the best to lead Hulu, but he is also too righteous/robot to do it the wrong way or a way he won't agree with. Another executive said that network executives are crazy angry, and he'd be stunned if Jason was still in his position in 60 days. So it's just hilarious that people are like, oh, yeah, he's totally right. But how dare he
But he's
say
probably
it?
out.
I think the rumor is that Kilar almost quit when they wouldn't reduce the price of Hulu Plus from $10 to $5, and he ended up compromising. They reduced it to $7. I think he's in a position where he's like, you know what? If I can't do this job the right way, I don't want to have this job anymore. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna write my post. I'm gonna go all Don Draper and write about the dangers of smoking. If you watch Mad Men, you'll get that illusion.
Yeah, I think I'd like to think that that's what's going on here. I don't think he's trying to get fired. I don't think that that's what we should assume is going on. I think he's just trying to make some changes and doing it publicly. $7.99, not $7. Claymation corrected.
Maybe he can save Hulu. Maybe
he can.
Maybe.
Canadian users may be saved from usage-based billing. The bandwidth caps that are put in place by Bell and other carriers and passed along to independent ISPs. First of all, yesterday, Prime Minister Stephen Harper sent a clear signal that, quote, we do expect the CRTC to reverse its decision and basically go back to the drawing board on this issue. If they do not do this, we want to make it clear the cabinet would take its responsibilities to do the same. So in other words, CRTC, reverse your decision on usage-based billing.
We'll make you.
Or we will do it for you. The head of the CRTC, Conrad von Finkenstein.
Great name.
Is that a name out of like a B movie? Did he arrive in a cape?
Conrad von Finkenstein.
I am Conrad von Finkenstein.
I'm going to be him for Halloween, and I don't even know what he looks like.
I have come to put your bandwidth cap back in place.
It's great. Bravo, Conrad.
He testified today on the Hill in Ottawa, just hours ago, actually, to the industry committee, and said, oh, we had already decided to review this yesterday. I never even saw Stephen Harper's Twitter post. I don't read the Twitter. We had already decided to do this. In light of the requests and the concerns expressed by Canadians, the CRTC will delay implementation of UBB for at least 60 days. So you've got at least a 2-month reprieve, and launch of our own motion a review of the decision in order to ensure that it protects consumers. They say they're not even going to listen to the industry on this. They're only going to take public comment, and then they will decide.
Well, and there has been a lot of public comment. There was a petition hosted at openmedia.ca to reverse this exact decision. Apparently, about 300,000 people, which is about 1% of Canada's population, signed this petition. I mean, there are a lot of people speaking up and saying, we are so not okay with this.
They asked von Finkenstein about that, and he's like, well, that's the internet. I mean, really?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he's kind of right.
I mean,
but
are we really supposed to believe that it just happened to coincide with them saying, "No, let's reverse it. This doesn't make any sense. Has nothing to do with what he should." Even if that's true, that it has nothing to do with this petition, wouldn't it be nice for him to give them a little recognition? Thank you so much for your huge outcry. You have spoken. Your words matter to us.
By action, that's what he's doing by taking 60 days and
but
taking
why
more
deny
public comment.
That they,
Von Finkenstein made the point too that it is 14% of users responsible for 83% of the usage, according to the carriers, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to stop all these bandwidth hogs. We have heard this argument before as well.
Yeah.
The bandwidth hogs do not cause any more incremental cost. It's another piece of FUD coming out of the telcos. It sounds like the CRTC got the wool pulled over their eyes, frankly.
Well, this is really good news for a lot of Canadians. They're definitely they're moving in the right direction anyway.
What else is good news is that there is a very easy way to start a blog, thanks to our sponsor, Squarespace.
Oh, thank goodness, because, well, actually, I already have a Squarespace blog, so I know that this is true. You have two.
Yeah, Forecast,
you
the
big
show I do, forecastpodcast.com. That is a Squarespace blog. Also, Sword and Laser that I do with Veronica Belmont. Swordandlaser.com is a Squarespace blog. And one of the reasons we do that is because when you're hosting a podcast, you don't want your site to go down.
No.
You want to make sure that everybody can get to it. And Squarespace says, we will adapt to your traffic needs. One of the dangers of web hosting your own stuff is that you have to be responsible for managing bandwidth. And a lot of people are capable of doing that. But if you don't want to mess with that hassle, if you just want to focus on your content, Squarespace makes that easy for you. And it's an easy-to-use UI. You don't have to have any design chops. You can be just a ham-fisted designer like me and go in and use one of their templates, modify it briefly, and you get yourself a beautiful website. Or if you're not, if you're a CSS expert and you're like, no, I want to make it look exactly the way I imagine it, you can do that too. You can get in there and use their template to cobble it together and tweak that CSS to your heart's content. They have hundreds of design templates, several modules that'll allow you to import your old blog. If you're already on Blogger, Movable Type, and TypePad, you can build forms to collect information from your audience and interact with them. You can put comments, display Flickr photos. They've got a Twitter widget, Google Maps, all that stuff. Use Squarespace for all your website needs. Build it, hostate it, update it anytime. For a 14-day free trial, you can try it out absolutely free. Import your old blog, see if you like it. Go to squarespace.com/TNT, because when you sign up for a free account, you don't have to use a credit card. You can just sign up for the free account and build out your website. It shows them that you support our show as well. That's squarespace.com/TNT. We love Squarespace. We thank them for their support.
Thank you, Squarespace.
Thanks, Squarespace.
You rock.
And thanks, Verizon Wireless, for throttling data speeds in advance of the iPhone.
Well, they're doing it because just a few people are ruining it for the rest of us.
Because of those bandwidth hogs.
Yeah. In fact, what did they say? They said, this is a statement from Verizon. Our proactive management of the Verizon wireless network is designed to ensure that the remaining 95% of data customers aren't negatively affected by the inordinate data consumption of just a few users.
Top 5% of Verizon wireless data users will have their data reduced for the remainder of their billing period and the following billing cycle.
Are we in the top 5? I'd love to know what makes someone a top 5 data hog.
Usually top 5 is a good thing.
It sure is, yes.
I want to be in the 95th percentile of anything.
Right.
I would take it as a compliment. No, I actually...
This is Verizon's lame prize, by the way.
Yeah,
for their
exactly.
for
their top 5. Ching. Little promo
and
for
is
Brian
this
Cooper.
top 5%? Are these people who are paying for unlimited data use, or are these people who are paying per for a certain amount of uses?
I think it doesn't matter what plan you're on.
No, it doesn't matter.
If you are in the top 5%, they may, not necessarily will, but they reserve the right to reduce your data throughput speeds.
These are also, these unlimited plans are not going to last forever, at least for new Verizon users. So the Verizon unlimited data plans are on their last legs anyway, but obviously the folks who are in the top 5% are probably on unlimited data plans.
Because otherwise they wouldn't get up and be in the top. Yeah. Verizon iPhone users will get 450 minutes for $40 when they sign up. $40 for unlimited text. $40 for 450 minutes. $20 for unlimited text. And then the $30 per month gets you the unlimited data plan. So you can actually outdo your AT&T competitors because you've got the same minutes, same texts, but you get an unlimited data plan, which is $5 more than AT&T's 2 gigabyte data plan. But you can't get unlimited on AT&T these days.
Like I said, it's worth repeating that apparently Verizon COO Lowell McAdams says the unlimited data feature will not last forever. So if you want to get grandfathered in to an unlimited plan and you're going to switch to Verizon, this might be a good time to do it because it's going to be tiered eventually. They don't say when, but I would say in the next month or so.
By the time people are getting their iPhone 4s on Verizon.
They don't want us to just watch videos all day long.
Golda Sater in the chat room points out, since you get throttled for the subsequent month as well as the month when you were in the 5%, the top 5% would change each month. Because once you're throttled, you're less likely to show up in the top 5%.
So everybody gets a piece.
Yeah, so it's fair. It rotates around.
Verizon have thought of everything.
They're so nice.
Yeah.
We got Mac Rumors putting together a bunch of different rumors to give you some information about iOS 4.3. The most interesting one here is that MacNotes.de claims Apple is planning an event for next week where the second generation iPad would be shown off, and the report speculates that it would come along with an announcement about iOS 4.3. We know a lot about iOS 4.3 because it's out in beta right now, but there hasn't been an official announcement for it or when it's coming out. John Gruber over at the Daily Fireball also says that
Daring
iOS
Fireball.
4... I'm sorry, the Daring Fireball.
Maybe he could call it the Daily
I think he
Fireball.
should come up with a more frequent version.
a newsy
Called
app.
the Daily Fireball. Sorry, John. Lays out his argument that iOS 4.3 will appear within the next 2 weeks to provide support for in-app subscription payments. So that backs up that part of MacNotes.e's rumor. And a number of observers noted that David Pogue in his Verizon iPhone review initially said AT&T's phone would receive personal hotspot functionality on February 13th. Now, AT&T has said that hotspot functionality will come to its HTC Inspire phone on February 13th. So maybe David just got confused there, or maybe he knows something he wasn't supposed to say because he since edited that.
If I had to guess, and I mean, I have no insider info, but I would guess that he probably heard that, and then someone told him, "Can you be more vague about it?" That would be great.
I could see them saying, "Hey, we're bringing the hotspot to all our phones on February 13th." Oh, but the fact that it's coming to iPhone is under wraps. You can talk about it for the HTC Inspire, that's fine, but don't talk. And then I could see a reporter going, "Well, it's coming February 13th." Oh, right. I wasn't. Because those NDAs and embargoes, they get confusing. That's why I don't like doing them.
But whether or not anyone is hoping to keep this under wraps, this would be the best thing for AT&T to do. If they don't do it, the fact that there are rumors that this would be an AT&T feature on the 13th, it would really suck if now they don't. Because if they don't, then it becomes this great thing that the Verizon iPhone has that the AT&T iPhone does not have. Instead of now hotspots available for iPhones everywhere. Yeah. Which, keeps AT&T in the game, at least in that arena. So they should. They'd be stupid not to at this point.
Also,
you tell it like it is, Sarah.
That's right.
Thanks, Kiki.
Also, Reuters reporting that they saw an iPad 2 at Rupert Murdoch's event where they announced the Daily. They went up to the person in question, whom they do not name, and confirmed that it was in fact an iPad 2 prototype.
So there are a few reasons that this story is ridiculous. I'll just name a couple of the main ones. First, the person is not named and there are no photos. Second, everything that was said about the supposed iPad 2 are just the rumors that have already been flying around. And those are really the main.
They didn't bring out any new information about it.
You're at an Apple event and you didn't get a camera phone picture of the iPad 2, but you're going to write a story about it because
Reuters.
No one can confirm nor deny the story.
Dear Reuters, pick or it didn't happen.
Right. It's so true. And something that we were talking about this on iPad Today before, something I thought of is when we were at Macworld last week, there are all sorts of iPad 2 cases. There's not an iPad 2 yet, but all the case makers are banking on the fact that, well, let's just put a little camera.
We've seen the rumor.
Yeah, we're seeing, let's make a case so that when there is one, we'll be some of the first manufacturers that people will buy from. What if this iPad just was in a funny case?
Right, exactly.
And somebody went crazy with the story and is wrong. Those could all be possible. It could have been an iPad 2, but I highly doubt Apple would have allowed that. It just sounds fishy.
On a more serious note, mobile phone firm Vodafone has accused the Egyptian authorities of forcing them to send unattributed text messages supporting the government during the protests in Egypt. Vodafone had to switch off its services last week when the protests began, but the authorities then ordered Vodafone to switch the network back on in order to send messages under Egypt's emergency laws. Now, those are meant to say, there's a flood, there's a disaster, there's an earthquake, here's how to get aid, and instead Vodafone said that the messages were unacceptable pro-government protest messages, that they couldn't even say, we didn't send these, or who sent them. They said these messages are not scripted by any of the mobile network operators. We do not have the ability to respond to the authorities on their content. And they just wanted to make it clear for anybody in Egypt getting these messages, it's not Vodafone who wants to send them. They're being forced to.
Why hasn't anyone told us what the the actual messages say. So I'm assuming that people who are on Vodafone networks are continually checking their phones, hoping that their service has come back up, and instead are receiving text messages that are pro-government propaganda, I guess. What are they saying? I mean, is it obvious to people that this is what's going on? How manipulative is the wording? I'd love to know what they're actually saying. Because Vodafone knows what's going on, but is anyone in the general population confused, or is it very obvious to everyone? Oh, ignore these. These are messages that we didn't ask for.
It's a really good question. Like I don't know if Kiki, have you seen any of the actual text? I haven't seen them.
I haven't seen them either.
I haven't seen it anywhere. It's
it's a great question.
If anybody in the audience has some of the text for these, please do send them along, TNT@twit.tv, because I would like to know what they say as well. And I think Sarah makes a really good point. It sounds like a horrible thing, but it may be one of those things where the tone of it is such that people on the ground immediately know to disregard it.
Yeah.
That it's really not going to have much of an effect. Finally, Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon has some questions for the Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement over the fact that they are going around seizing domain names of sites that they claim are breaking the law, usually copyright violations. In fact, almost all of the time they're copyright violations. Wyden says that he doesn't know that having a federal judge sign off on an order and then having ICE take down a domain name is absolutely legal. There's no way for someone to respond to this and defend themselves. ICE brings the order, the judge signs it, they seize the domain. And in one case, they seized the domain of rojadirecta.org, a Spanish website that has been twice declared legal by Spanish courts.
Right. And, the Wyden's questions were, at least in relation to Roja Directa, did the Department of Justice and ICE take into account the legality of the website before it ceases domain name? What standard are we expecting foreign countries to use when determining whether to seize a domain name controlled in the U.S. for copyright infringement? I mean, no one's talking to each other appropriately. Yeah. I mean, I think he's right to say, well, wait a second. They're not allowed to stand up for themselves, and they've already been declared legal in Spain.
He also is pointing out that last year they seized dajaz1.com, and then later it was found out that the songs that were claimed to be infringing were provided by the operators of the
music industry folks.
Of the music industry directly.
And I don't really know why.
I'm sorry, not provided by the operators. Provided directly by music industry and executives. Classic case of one hand not knowing what the other's doing. That has happened a lot in these blogs where the marketing department gives an MP3 out and says, hey, post this up. We want to get it out there. And then the lawyers go, hey, they're posting that MP3.
That's infringement.
Yeah.
Take down the site. And then after it's all over, it turns out that, oh, they should have been up the whole time. So that's a very good example of a situation where it's like, hey, if we had just had a better conversation about what's really going on, there had been better communication, no, those files are actually supposed to be there, then they shouldn't have been taken down. And that could be the case with Roja Directa as well.
All right, let's move on to the News Fuse. News Corp's COO Chase Carey told analysts the plan to allow MySpace to reach its full potential may be best achieved under a new owner. That's right, folks. Step right up. Take a look at our shiny social network, barely used, just remodeled with a new lightweight payroll. You can't beat a bargain like this, Silicon Valley. Who wants to make the first offer?
You'd be a terrible car salesman. Hotmail is getting a new feature that lets anybody create multiple email accounts that can be read or replied to and managed from their everyday email inbox. These additional email addresses can be had in the same manner as signing up for new accounts, but they require no extra logins or upkeep, so that's nice. The idea is to give users a safe way to provide third parties with an email address without giving up your main address. I don't have a Hotmail account, but for those who do, this is great. Good feature.
Yep. The Egyptian internet shutdown could possibly cost the country $90 million, according to preliminary estimates from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Telecom and internet services account for 3 to 4% of GDP in Egypt, making a loss of about $18 million per day during the shutdown. The long-term impact could be greater since Egypt cut off high-tech firms that had to be lured into the country in the first place.
Ooh, yeah, they're not going to be happy about that. They may not stay. Users of T-Mobile are the most satisfied customers among the top 4 wireless carriers, according to the new data out today from J.D. Power and Associates. Verizon Wireless took runner-up honors, followed by Sprint, Nextel, then AT&T. J.D. Power surveyed 9,755 wireless customers who contacted a service department sometime in the past 6 months, and the survey was conducted from last July through December 2010.
Steve Wozniak has clarified that when he mentioned that camera problem with his self-built white iPhone, he wasn't confirming anything about what might be going wrong and why Apple might have delayed theirs. Woz appeared on Engadget's podcast, showing a white iPhone he had constructed from parts and described a camera problem as a possible white phone issue, not the issue. He reaffirmed he knows nothing about Apple's actual reasons.
Poor Woz.
I know nothing.
He's always taken out of context.
Right, it's true.
Samsung claims the 16% return rate for the Galaxy Tab put forth earlier this week by ITG Investment Research are flat wrong. Samsung says the return rate is below 2%. That's an awfully wide swing, although some have speculated Samsung is counting returns to the manufacturer from retailers, and ITG was counting returns to the retail stores by consumers. So there would be a big difference there.
So there could be a difference where the retail stores just turn around and resell them. Although
Yes.
they're not allowed to resell them as new in those cases. They have to be open box, so it's still a revenue hit.
Yeah.
Those folks on forums claiming the new PS3 firmware has a rootkit are full of it, according to Chris Boyd. He's a security researcher at GFI Security who has studied the security of online games for several years. He's also a supporter of GeoHot, the jailbreaker. Boyd says the PS3 has had the ability to contact the mothership for years, and the firmware is not doing anything extraordinary. Boyd seems skeptical that the firmware could run unsigned malicious code on a non-jailbroken box, and gamers are just blowing this out of proportion.
Researcher Rafael Rivera, who uncovered Yahoo as the third party responsible for the famous Windows Phone 7 data leak, seemed irked by Yahoo trying to blame Microsoft for non-standard IMAP behavior. So he did some more research and found, and these are his words, Yahoo, your buggy IMAP server affects iPhones too. Thanks for playing, though. Full details of the issue at his blog, withinwindows.com.
Yeah,
I like that. He did
funny.
seem irked.
Yeah.
I tried to do an irked Raphael.
That was pretty irked.
Okay.
Joshua Caleb in the chat room just sent us a link to Flickr where there are pictures of the text messages from Vodafone with translations. Now, I obviously can't read Arabic, but I'm going to trust the translations. They say things like, "Youth of Egypt, beware rumors and listen to the sound of reason. Egypt is above all, so preserve it."
Wow.
So this is probably, I would just guess, based on how much rhetoric and the protests and taking all of that into consideration, that this is probably something that people are looking at and knowing exactly what it is.
Yeah,
and not saying, maybe we should just go home.
I don't think somebody who's really committed to the protest looks at that and goes, "Oh, I guess I'll listen to
maybe
sound.
we ought to back
I
off."
guess I'll listen to the sound of reason in this text message.
The unemployment
from someone
number doesn't
I don't,
feel so high.
From Vodafone.
Right.
Because it does say from Vodafone.
You know, and another thing to keep in mind is Vodafone has publicly stated, we're being forced to do this. This is out of our hands. This is the emergency texts that are being sent out.
The armed forces ask Egypt's honest and loyal men to confront the traitors and criminals. Now, that's obviously targeted at the people who aren't protesting, but might be willing to go out in the streets and confront them. And we've seen Mubarak supporters out there, and there's been a lot of speculation about where they came from. I doubt they all came from a bunch of text messages.
I doubt it too.
Yeah.
I doubt it too.
All right, let's finish up with the Xperia Play commercial that has been uncovered by Droid NYTT. I believe it's a Dutch website. They got a hold of a copy. This is the worst protected secret in Sony's history. They have, by the way, never announced the Sony Ericsson Play, but yet we have this commercial to take a look at. Do we?
It went away.
I hope.
Well, I thought we did.
We do.
At one point we did. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
So that's Droid NYTT's. It's just a guy running down a back alley for those on the audio podcast. He's holding a knife.
It's very dark.
It is very dark.
Bandages.
It's almost surgery.
Oh, gross.
They're making a little droid.
It's the Android guy, and he's got
The
thumbs
Android guy
now.
got thumbs.
Xperia Play. from Sony Ericsson.
Now, I suppose it's possible someone made that up, but that's pretty high production value
Yeah.
for a fake. I mean, those thumbs look real.
It's kind of graphic.
Yeah, I know.
Like, whose thumb got chopped off to make the droid possible?
All right, before we have
a
to
good
think on that
question.
too much longer, let's move on to the calendar.
Let's. I agree with that idea. Today marked the day that the regional internet registries received their very last blocks of IPv4 addresses. There was a ceremony this morning and everything. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
They all sat on stage, the 5 families of the internet.
Holding back their sobs.
Yeah.
To finally, well, anyway, we all knew this was coming. And they had a ceremony about it this morning.
Yeah, look, Apnick,
They all look happy.
Afrinick,
No one
Wright,
looks upset.
Aaron. Yeah. They all showed up. It was the
R.I.P.
It was a
coming out
joyous occasion.
of the
IPv4.
regional internet registry stars.
I like how they're all in black, but that one guy is like wearing jeans that are cuffed. He's
Afrinick.
just like, look,
He's like,
listen,
yeah.
I'm
Oh, no, it was
in
Wright.
mourning, but I'm hip.
It was the European Middle Eastern guy.
Yeah.
Right.
He's having a good time.
We're cool.
Yeah,
We're
this
good.
is a fun ceremony.
We actually are sitting on a ton of IPv4 addresses.
we
We'll
got
be
so many
fine.
more of these in the black market. The Dell Venue is ready to order now for $500 unlocked and shipping February 18th. Motorola's Atrix 4G is coming to AT&T on March 6th.
How much?
200 or bundled with laptop dock for 500.
So I get the phone and the laptop dock for 500, and I know they're going to sell the laptop dock separately for 500. So I essentially get the
Why would
laptop
you
dock
ever-
and the phone free.
That's right.
If I'm so tempted to go to the Atrix.
Why
That is such a
would the
nice
laptop
phone.
dock be the same price as the bundled price?
They're basically subsidizing more
Yeah.
if you get the dock and the phone. I don't know why.
Well, then it's a really good deal if you want that phone.
Yeah,
Do you want that
absolutely.
phone, Tom? You're salivating over there.
I'm drooling a little bit
Yeah.
over the
all right.
Atrix, I got to say.
Well, you got a little time to think about it. Not too much though. March 6th. Google gambles $20,000 in a CR48 that Chrome can't be exploited at Pwn to Own, which is a contest that's part of the CanSec West Security Conference, which is held in Vancouver, March 9th through 11th. So if you're a hacker and you can exploit Chrome, you might get $20,000 and a CR48.
A lot of people may be thinking, like, why is Google doing this? You'd never say you can't get hacked. You're going to lose $20,000. Google's doing this because it's worth $20,000 for them to figure out what kind of hack could win Pwn to Own.
Totally. They're actually, they would love it if somebody brought a big fat exploit to them so they could go, okay, let's patch it up. Let's patch a thumb onto this,
Yes.
and we're good to go.
Someone get these thumbs off of our Android.
In the rumor mill, dual-core HTC Pyramid Superphone is coming to T-Mobile by May.
Hey, so T-Mobile gets their own version of the Superphone.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and it's probably poorly timed, called the Pyramid.
Yes. I made a BFE joke on iPad Today earlier and immediately thought that was really
soon.
stupid. It wasn't intentional.
Yeah, and we not that this is like, the big political bellwether, but in the game We Rule on iPad and iPhone,
Right.
they've been having a lot of Egyptian themed things that you can buy that
it's
are
just
like
coincidental?
pyramids and sphinxes, like antiquity stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, it started before the protests and then it
So-
was just carried on.
Yes.
Through.
Well, anyway,
All
the
right.
HTC Pyramid Superphone is coming.
On to the
That's
voicemail.
what's
Our caller today wants to talk about in case of emergency internet connections.
Hi guys, Mike in Wichita, Kansas, Eagle Eye 69 in the chat room, thinking about the whole Egypt scenario. Kind of curious of what would happen if this were to happen in the U.S. I know in Egypt they were talking about using dial-up as the only method to get out, and based on that, I have signed up. I've got a 50 megabit connection to the house, but I'm also signed up with a dial-up ISP as of lately, just in case something like that were to happen here. Fairly inexpensive and an alternate way to connect to the internet. Also thinking about getting a passport just in case something crazy goes on here in the U.S. as well. Call me paranoid, but I like having a backup plan for everything.
Paranoid.
Anyways, love the show. Keep up the good work.
But just because you're
Thanks.
paranoid
Bye.
doesn't mean they're not after you.
That's right.
That's right.
Keep that tinfoil hat on.
You know what?
There they are.
I used to keep one of those free. Remember back in like the early part of the 2000s when they had all those free dial-up ISPs.
Yes.
All the FRISPs,
Yes.
as we used to call them. I used to keep one of those as an emergency connection just for such a reason. It's not a bad idea. A lot of ISPs will give you a dial-up connection, especially if you're getting DSL. They'll give you a dial-up connection as a backup.
Just in case.
I used to have that when I had DSL. The cable company doesn't do that, so good point. Thanks for the call.
And it wouldn't
I
hurt
think we all
get a
need to figure out how to
passport
send the text messages over landline phones.
either. Yes.
There is a way to do that, and I can't remember
There is,
how.
yeah.
There's actually, given the protests in Egypt, there are tutorials on blogs that explain how to circumvent networks being down by being able to sort of hack together a way to send a text via. It's not easy, but it's
Nothing has helped us to learn how to live outside of the system being foisted upon us by ISPs than these kind of protests like Tunisia and Egypt. On to the emails, tnt@twit.tv. Kiki, you want to lead us off?
Sure. Hey, TNT, the dailyindexedtumblr.com has just cropped up in my Twitter feed as an RT. That's a retweet. And figured you guys might want to take a look and remember why old media with its values on scarcity is just broken when duplication is just a button press away. Love the show, Alan Bowden Smith.
Yeah, and if you go to that Tumblr blog, they have every story from the Daily listed and a link to the Daily website where you can find the story.
The Daily.
This is the Andy Bale from Waxy is putting this together. It
I
looks
guess
like
so,
it.
yeah.
And the what is this? It says lovewaxy.org. So I
Right.
assume that's who's behind it. Waxy's at least I used to go to Waxy daily.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Ironically.
Internet. Yeah. Another unintentional. I'm just very punny today. The next email comes from Reggie. This one is directed at you, Tom.
All right, fine.
He says, "Hi, Tom. Here's why I disagree with you about the Daily.
Okay, fine.
I'm a fan of Automobile Magazine. Comes out daily, so it doesn't always have to be up-to-date info. However, has great photography, great writing, and intelligent editorial. If I want to be up-to-the-minute info, I've got the web for that. But being first doesn't always give writers time to go deeper into a story and give historical perspective, sometimes report accurately. Hey, I like blogs, but I'm looking forward to consuming content that's had more time to bake and that's written by seasoned reporters. Information is like food. You can have it fast, cheap, or good, and the most you can have is 2 of the 3, but not all 3. The Daily might be cheap and good, and like the song says, 2 out of 3 ain't bad."
Well, that implies that if I had a constantly updated app like the Wall Street Journal is, that it's somehow less valuable, and I don't think that's true. I think you can have both.
Yes.
What I object to isn't the fact that they're taking longer to write some of their stories, but that I'm artificially being delayed because they're mimicking an old model of delivering daily.
Totally agree with that. Updating, I mean, what are they...
The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal still have investigative pieces, but their apps update as warranted.
Well, and imagine NewYorkTimes.com, just as an example. Imagine how many times all of the pages associated, from the web mothership of New York Times are being uploaded throughout the day. The Daily would constantly update if it was really up to the minute information. I mean, you wouldn't want to launch the Daily and every single time you do, it's like, oh, it's updating again. 5 minutes later, oh, it's updating again.
Right,
10 minutes later.
because it's such a bandwidth.
So they're only really going to do it, what, maybe twice? Maybe 2 updates per day?
Right.
Maybe 3 if it was some crazy thing. That's still not the kind of information that we're used to. We're used to, if it just happened, it is on CNN right now. CNN.com.
Yep.
But I don't, Kiki, I don't think you disagree either that it is valuable to have longer form journalism, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so much room for investigative journalism, for really laying out all the facts of a story. I mean, the daily stuff is always going to be there to keep people knowing kind of what's going on. I mean, even before blogs and stuff like the Daily became a big issue, there was the print magazine, The Week. Do you guys know The Week? It's but it's basically the same idea. It comes out on a weekly basis, but it's just regurgitating information found in all sorts of other journalistic outlets. So, I mean, there's always going to be the quick, the easy, to just get it down while you're having breakfast or you're riding on your exercise bicycle. And then there's going to be the in-depth stuff that really tells you what's going on. And that's where people get the meat of stories.
And I think your publication doesn't have to choose. I think what he's arguing is a little bit fatuous, because he's saying, well, I want to have these more in-depth articles. And I agree. I do too. I don't think that's invaluable. But if it's something that's daily, right, versus a sort of a monthly publication.
Sure.
If it's daily, then it's implying that like we're up to date. And if you're up to date, you can be fast and accurate. Just because a lot of people aren't doesn't mean it's impossible.
A couple people in the chat room are saying, well, if it was up to the minute, it would be called the minute, not the daily. That's true, and I think that
I think we have a business plan.
Now, who can make an app?
Let's do it.
I think that this actually really, everything that we're complaining about only applies to that breaking news. Everything else in the daily, I thought, I read it cover to cover yesterday, was written well.
Yeah.
There's a story on Q&A kind of Quora type services. I thought it was very well written. And that wasn't something that I was like, hey, this was written 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Something's broken. It's just the top news. But they can't leave that out either, because then they seem incomplete.
Yeah. When you're reading that story about Egypt and things are happening fast in Egypt, it starts to feel stale.
Yes.
And I love what they're doing about incorporating Twitter and feeds of streams to freshen it up. I think that's great. So they are doing a lot of things right.
This is also day 2 of the daily, so I think that
it's over.
There's going to be a lot of criticism, and they're going to tweak things. And in 6 months, we might have a lot less to complain about. Who knows?
Finally, Andrew Birch wrote in and said, I find the Canada broadband issue slightly funny because you talk about how 25 gigabytes is so small and data caps are crazy. And yet here in Australia, we've always had data caps, but we still hate them. Here are a list of some broadband prices in Australia, and he goes on to show the cheapest plans you can get. So, for instance, from Telstra, $50 a month for 2 gigabytes. This is not a mobile plan. This is your landline plan.
Holy moly.
A lot of the caps are around 20 gigabytes, 30 gigabytes. TPG is one of the worst, $30 per month for 15 gigabytes. He says these providers all offer better deals if you bundle broadband with your home phone, but we still have data caps. Also, a lot of people are unable to get internet from any other provider other than Telstra, depending on where they live. So when it comes to Canada, I disagree with the new regulations on their data caps, but the U.S. and Canada should feel very privileged to get access to nearly unlimited data usage, because it's not the same elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
I had to give one Australian
perspective, Canadians.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
You could be down under.
down under.
Exactly. You could be cheering for the Wallabies.
Those are terrible caps.
Yeah.
What do you do? Are you forced to go to a coffee shop that pays, for a better package more regularly? I
think you can get a more expensive one with a higher cap. But everything is capped. I think that's his point. It's like, we've been living this way forever. Yeah. All right.
Even though even though everything's capped, Australian internet has the worst reputation of any internet service globally that I've heard about. Every time I've tried to communicate with people in Australia, they're complaining about some aspect of their data being throttled or just not being available.
I think actually Egypt has trumped
right now.
Australia
Recently,
on a global scale.
Recently, yeah.
But, nobody else.
They are getting national fiber, though. So their speed's going to improve. They'll probably still have caps on it, but the speed's going to improve.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Twit.tv/TNT is the place to find us online. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, and give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. 260-TNT-SHOW. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring the show. We'll see you tomorrow for Liquid Friday.
That's really gross.
It really is.